Esther Stubbs. I am the founder of the Pelvic Power Movement and a specialist physiotherapist. Today we're going to talk about Kegels and the importance of strengthening your pelvic floor to prevent symptoms of prolapse and incontinence. We're going to look at the pelvic floor model to give us an idea of exactly what muscles we are strengthening and how we can do this. How can we feel those pelvic floor muscles? How can we find them? And how do we know we're doing them correctly? So let's have a quick look at the pelvic floor model and see if we can work out what the structures are. So here we have a pelvic floor model. These are your iliac crests, which basically are what you place your hands on your hips. If somebody says pop your hands on your hips, this is the front, is your pubic bone, which is down here. This is your sacrum, which is at the bottom of your spine. The sacrum leads onto your coccyx, and the coccyx feeds into the pelvic floor. If we look at this model, the red areas are your pelvic floor muscles. So this big bowl type muscle is made up of lots of layers and it sits inside the pelvic floor. It's called your levator ani. And the figure of 8 muscle on the outside, we can see if I hold it a little bit closer for you, causes when we do the squeeze of the Kegel, constricts the sphincters around the anus, the vagina and the urethra. So it's really important when we do a pelvic floor squeeze that we understand the muscles that we're squeezing, the direction that they're traveling in, and how we can know if we're doing it correctly. Now, the simplest way, although it's not recommended that you do it frequently, is to try and stop yourself urinating while you're on the toilet. Now, I don't suggest you do this on a regular basis because it can cause urine dysfunction. But if you want to try it once just to see if when you squeeze these muscles, you actually can stop yourself urinating, it's a good suggestion. Otherwise, we're going to move on to seeing how to do a Kegel. And we're going to try these Kegels in different positions because by tipping the pelvis into different positions, we activate different muscles, we change the gravitational forces, and we change the tension on the pelvic floor. And we're going to get different reactions in the pelvic floor. And for some people, different positions will work better than others. We are all different. We've all been through different traumas, different injuries and different experiences. And we have to consider these factors when looking at pelvic floor exercises so that you get the most out of strengthening your pelvic floor. So what's the basic Kegel? Well, the basic Kegel is a squeeze of this figure of 8 muscle and a lift of the levator ani. So we're going to feel a tightening from the back passage. Imagine you're wanting to prevent yourself from passing wind. Maybe you're in an inconvenient or embarrassing predicament and you want to squeeze around the back passage, then draw it up to the vagina and urethra all the way up. And that will give you that squeeze. And then at the end of the squeeze, you're going to feel a lift. And that is that levator ani drawing together on all sides and lifting those pelvic organs up into that pelvic cavity, just drawing them away from the base. So imagine if you're sitting on a chair, which is a great place to start. As you squeeze and lift, you should feel your perineum, which is that part between your vagina and your anus, lifting away from the hard surface of the chair. So just give that a little try. We're going to coordinate the breath with that because the pelvic floor naturally contracts on the exhalation. So as you squeeze, I want you to blow the air out of your mouth. Imagine you are blowing out some candles. So we're just going to do a slow. So blowing slowly through your mouth and drawing, squeezing and lifting and drawing up. So have a go on the chair and see how you feel. For some people, they may feel more in standing. For some people, they may feel more in lying. And that will depend on the length of their pelvic floor, and depend on any other injuries. So I'd like you to try it in those 3 positions. A good image to have in your head when doing Kegel exercises is imagine sucking something up a straw through your vagina. So imagine that you have, you're sucking a smoothie, not just some water because it doesn't require so much pull, but maybe a smoothie out of glass, or some spaghetti, somebody once mentioned. It's a great, through that vagina, and you're sucking it all the way up. So it's a squeeze, just like when you suck spaghetti, you squeeze your lips together and you pull through and sucking it up. Okay. It's really important once you've finished that you do a full release of that pelvic floor. We don't want to contract our pelvic floor and leave it hanging there, because when we go to do another contraction, we can't do anything. We need to allow it to fully relax in order to fully contract. So a nice deep inhalation into that belly will help that muscle relax between each contraction. So once you've done your squeeze and your lift, give a nice deep inhalation through the nose to allow the pelvic floor to fully relax and allow that muscle to extend through its range of movement, so that when you're ready to do your next contraction, it is in its correct position. And that goes for any exercise that you do. So that is the basic Kegel. But let's face it, doing basic Kegels isn't particularly functional and it can get a bit boring. So let's look at some other exercises that we can do to incorporate those Kegels and make them a little bit more functional in the early stages. Join me on the mat while we try it out. Great, so we're going to look at a couple of functional Kegel exercises on the mat, just to help you get started, help you to feel those pelvic floor muscles working in different positions. Because like I said, some people feel it better lying on their back, some people feel it better sitting up, and some feel it better standing up. But I think you've got those. I'm going to trust you can try those in those positions. This time we're going to look at some exercises that are a little bit more functional. We're going to start with cat-cow because it's a great release position. So it gives you the opportunity to make sure you have a good release with the contraction. On all fours, we're going to relax in this position, and we're going to tilt our pelvis as we inhale and relax. And as we exhale, we're going to tuck our bottom under and squeeze that pelvic floor. So inhale. Now make sure we're not pushing up into the upper back. We're just using that pelvic tilt. Okay? So inhaling, releasing, belly out. Exhaling, drawing and tucking that tailbone under and squeezing that pelvic floor and lifting up. So inhale, release, exhale and lift. Inhale, release, exhale and lift. Inhale, release. Feeling that release, you should feel the sit bones stretching further apart as you're on the release and coming together as you squeeze and lift. The next position we're going to try the Kegel in is child's pose. So we're going to spread our legs nice and wide and relax onto the mat, elbows down, head on the mat. In this position, I'm going to obviously lift my head so you can hear me a little bit more clearly. In this position, we are going to inhale into that belly, getting a nice release of that pelvic floor in the sit bones. So inhaling and exhaling. And as we exhale, we're going to lift that pelvic floor. Inhale, dropping the belly down, inflating the pelvic floor. Exhale, squeezing that pelvic floor and lifting. Inhale and relax. Exhale and lift. As you inhale and relax, you get better proprioception because you are encouraging that pelvic floor to stretch through its range of movement, so you will feel more when you contract, and we're getting strength now through full range of motion, which is better for strengthening and better for dynamic function. Let's move on to the third exercise. Lying on your back. Obviously, initially you can practice the Kegel just in this neutral position. Make sure you've got an arch in your back. Okay, just nice and natural. Shoulder blades relaxed, neck lengthened. We're going to keep our feet hip width, knees to the ceiling. And as we inhale, we're going to release that pelvic floor. And as we exhale, we can draw it in. And that is a standard basic level 1 Kegel. If we want to make it a bit more functional, what we're going to do is inhale, release. Exhale, we're going to squeeze our bottom, and we're going to lift using our butt cheeks and squeezing that pelvic floor up and in, up to the ceiling. Okay? We're going to then inhale, release at the top. Exhale, squeeze that pelvic floor, and now with that gravitational assistance, you should feel that pelvic floor lifting a little bit higher, and there'll be more feedback there. We're going to slowly squeeze that bottom and gently roll our spine down and allow the bottom to touch the floor. Inhale in this position, release. Exhale, squeeze those buttocks, squeeze that pelvic floor and lift up to the ceiling. Now, if you're using your thighs, you will get cramp. So try and relax the hamstrings and just engage your gluteals, your bottom. Inhale, release at the top, make sure you release. Exhale, squeeze again and gently rolling down. So you want to be practicing those exercises at least 10 times and aiming for 3 sets. You want those muscles to fatigue to build strength, but it's also equally important that you stretch and release them in order to get the most from each exercise. So don't worry if you can only do a couple in the beginning before they fatigue, that is fine. What you're aiming for is quality, not quantity, but you're also aiming for is consistency. So maybe today after 2 they fatigue, but you did great form. In a couple of days, aim for 3 and build up nice and slowly, always looking at your form and your technique, really engaging those muscles to the maximum capacity and ensuring you release as well, giving your body that time, because remember, we cannot strengthen a tight muscle. We must have function. I hope that's been helpful. If you like this video and want to see more of them, please click like and subscribe below. We would love to see you. Please do share with your friends. The Pelvic Power Movement is all about educating and spreading the word about optimum pelvic health. Take care for now.